So we're learning about one of the most powerful pieces that the Jewish person has in his body in today's class in Tanya. And we're learning about the Nefesh Elikis, the Ava Mesuteres, the love to Hashem that the godly soul has to the Creator, to Hashem. So one of the examples that I think to the message in Tanya is we're finishing the chapter about that. So the last two chapters, we've been learning about this thing we call the Pintel Yid. Every Jew has very deep within them a godly soul, a heavenly power that's connected to Hashem, which means you could have a low soul, but your low soul is also connected to the deepest level of the 10 spheres, which is Chachma. So even if you somehow got a very, very low neshama, a very low soul, it's still part of the family of souls and the 10 energies that come from the four worlds, and it's connected to the highest energy, to the level we call Chachma, wisdom. And we explained that wisdom is the conduit, is the bridge to the infinite, to the bridge to Hashem. And at length, we explained that in the last few classes. The bottom line is the Jew has this. Now, like a battery, I think a battery is a good example. So I had before my car car after Pesach didn't start. It's not something new that I deal with. I have some very old cars, but my car didn't start. And I was trying to figure out what to do. And I got a battery not too long before, and I went to the mechanic, and the mechanic said, oh, we gave you a faulty battery. He puts a new battery, and boom, car starts beautifully, no problem. So what I want to say, sometimes, it's not the exact analogy, sometimes you're just missing a wire from your battery to your car, and then the car won't start. Or sometimes the battery itself is no good. So what happens is, if you're just missing the wire, the batteries to your car is good the whole time, all you need to do is connect it, and it's powerful. So what's wrong with the Jewish person? What's his challenge when he's not feeling the love of Hashem? He's gluttony and indulging and totally into himself, his ego and so on. And he's not in touch at all with his godly soul. Let's say someone is not in touch at all. It's not, here's the point in today's lesson, I think. It's not that your godly soul became weaker. It's not that the battery became weaker. The battery is just as strong as it was before. Like it has, I guess you could go to the store and buy the most expensive, powerful battery. The second you touch your car, boom, your car is already like fully ready to go, right? They probably sell, I don't know the names of it. They probably sell some, like the Energizer Bunny or something, like they say, like they have the battery, like this battery is amazing, beautiful battery, but the problem is not connected, but it's there. So we're not saying that the godly soul got diminished. It hasn't got diminished. On Sunday mornings, I have a prayer class. I daven. I don't know if anybody wants to join us. We have a tefillin club, which we put a tefillin together. We meditate a little bit on the prayer. I share some meditations and so on. And we daven slowly. We choose select portions. And I spoke about that this morning, that the godly soul is always connected. It's you can't hurt it. You can't touch it. It's powerful. It's just you're not connected with it at the moment. And the second you connect, the car is like fully on, ready to go, because the battery is really powerful. So when the Jew is weakened and he doesn't feel the connection to spirituality, it's not that his godly soul is weaker. It's simply that his body is not connected to the godly soul. The godly soul is just as powerful. And the second, why is that so significant? Because the second you plug it in a half a second, everything will melt away. You won't even notice kind of that you won't even know who you were before. I would bring an example, like wake up the beast within you. Usually I hear this example brought in the other way, like if that guy says one more thing, like, oh my gosh, I am just gonna lose it. And I think Jackie Mason has a thing on that. Like the guy said one more thing, and then you asked, what's that one thing? It's always the next thing, because you're scared to. But you wake up. I think even there's like there's one of these shows which, like, if you get the person angry, the Hulk, right? Isn't it him who's like you wake him up and then he just destroys everything in its path. So I always hear this with the animal part of it. But I would say we're always in touch with our animal. Really, the better example would be in our godly soul. If you just wake up that godly soul, everything else will just explode. Disaster will melt, will disappear. The whole animal tendencies you have will disappear, because why? The godly soul is just as strong as it was. It just needs to be woken up. And then you're gonna be in business. You're gonna be a tzaddik. You can go from 0 to 100 in a second, because the battery is just so powerful. It's just not connected. Okay, let's learn today's Tanya inside. and we'll hopefully see what I am describing to you in today's Tanya. Okay, here we go. Elu Ella. So we're describing the Jew who is his godly soul's hidden. He's not feeling it. He's really feeling. We're describing the person now in Tanya. We don't often describe this person, but we're describing the person who seems to be really disconnected from his neshama. So the exile of his wisdom, right? Chachma is wisdom. That's the bridge that connects to the infinite. So the exile that your wisdom is in, this godly soul of that, the love of Hashem, the unbelievable love of Hashem that's in your wisdom, you feel this connection to the infinite through your wisdom. What is in exile? Only the effect that the wisdom, that the hidden love would have on your soul, spreading out to the whole body to animate the whole soul. So there's kind of a lower part of the soul that dresses into the physical soul of the person. So the higher infinite soul, the bridge connected to the infinite, nothing happened to it. But the way it spreads out into the physical soul of the body, the physical body, that is exile, that it's stopping it from allowing it to have any kind of oversight to the body, to the soul that's within the body, like the physical part of the soul that's within the body. So there's like, you're exiling it, you're not giving him an opinion, you're cutting him out, you don't want to hear his opinion, we don't want to hear what you have to say. But the shayrish v'ikar shabechinas hachachma shabenaf shalikis, however, the wisdom, the source of the soul, the wisdom part of the soul that's in the godly soul, hu b'maychin, that is found in your brain. So you always retain an element in your brain that is the higher level of the godly soul, of the love of Hashem, hidden love of Hashem. It's always there in your brain, somewhere in the back, kind of like, in the subconscious. That level of the hidden love of Hashem that's in your brain, it's not that you're forcing it to kind of become a prisoner within the heart. It's not that it's exiled to now be controlled. In other words, the animal soul doesn't take control of that. He doesn't have a right. He doesn't have an ability to ever destroy it. That godly soul will always just kind of hover above. It'll float above. It'll be in the brain. It'll float above the body. It will never be. It can't destroy it. So the godly soul, I guess, has the ability to educate and change the animal soul. But the animal soul never has the ability to change that bridge to godliness. It can't affect it. That's always safe. It can never, no matter how bad the Jew is, it can never change that. But actually, what is it like? So he gives an example. It's like when you're sleeping. It's in your potential. You have the potential for it, but you don't see it at all. A lot of people have potential, tremendous potential, but you just don't see. When you look at them, you don't see it. Because it's having no effect. It's in potential, but it's not. It doesn't have an opinion at all. No one's listening to it. It's literally sleeping. It's a great example. Sleeping. As I gave the example, my 4-year-old every morning. My wife actually told my boys came home late. They get up early on Sundays to go to yeshiva. They slept downstairs because we don't want to wake up the 4-year-old, because all you need is one creak of the door and boom, she's awake and she's smiling. She's great. She brings tremendous love and fun to the family, but we want her sleeping because she's much happier if she sleeps another hour. So, but that one little creak is all it takes to go from being fully awake. She goes from 0 to 60, wants to have cereal and milk the second she wakes up. But you don't know she can't do that if she's sleeping. So when you're sleeping, you literally don't even know it exists. They're quiet. You don't know that they're there. But the second they wake up, it's a great example to bring sleeping as an analogy, because it totally has the potential, but it's not there now. Why? Because it's sleeping. So as long as the body, this Jew, he's totally gluttonous. He doesn't care about anything else. He just wants to indulge and be gluttonous and selfish and whatever he wants. Totally into his animal soul. The godly soul kind of goes into potential, it goes to sleep, and it's just waiting to be woken up, but it's there. It's a battery, man. It's fully powerful, but it's just sleeping. It's waiting for it to be woken up in a moment. As soon as the gluttony can end, then he can be allowed back in. I know this is a good example because we're dealing with Corona now, and maybe I'm thinking of it, but right, our bodies have the potential to create like when we're all getting the vaccines, it gives your body the potential to fight the sickness. So now if you don't have the sickness, if you don't get corona, hopefully, then your body will never need to fight it. It'll be potential in your DNA, right? Your cells, whatever it's called, knows the information. The second the sickness comes into the body, once you get the thing to attack the virus, your body will go gung-ho, full out on it. So your body has a potential, but as long as there's no sickness there, you don't know about it. Like, so there could be something that's totally in potential, but it's just sleeping. You just need to wake it up. But as long as it's not waking it up, as long as it's able to be kept asleep, it's asleep. It's not functioning at all. When somebody's sleeping, they're not functioning. You can't ask them a question or whatever, so on. They're sleeping. They're not here. But they have the potential to be here in a half a second. However, so what wakes up, right? My daughter, what wakes her up is when the door creaks. Everyone has, what's going to wake up the Hulk? I don't know exactly what wakes up the Hulk, but what wakes up the neshama, what touches it, it's a challenge in faith. So once this Jew who seemingly gluttony totally into be a gluttonous life, what pokes him, what wakes up the sleeping bear, here we mean the godly soul, is a challenge in faith in Hashem. That's what tickles it's what tickles it to wake it up. Because faith is, you're now talking his language. Which language? The language of this deep soul, because the part of the soul, I guess, the godly soul that's in the body, that already has been destroyed, kind of. You're so gluttonous, you've made him kind of follow your lead. He's exiled. But you never put to sleep the level of Hashem that bridges to the infinite, which is called wisdom, because he isn't rational. He doesn't care about these whole rational ideas of gluttony that you're appreciating in life. He's higher than it. So when will you talk his language? When you're dealing with ideas in faith, because he believes in Hashem higher than logic. It's not about logic, right? It's a Jew. It's unfortunate something when a Jew just serves God out of logic, because just prove it, whatever, so on. But that level of the Jew, it's higher than logic, as we've been explaining in our class. It's wisdom. It's beyond intellect. V'naga ad hanefesh. And when you talk about belief in Hashem, you're touching that part of the soul, the nefesh, the b'chinas chachma sheba, the level of wisdom in it. So now when it gets a conversation about, do you believe in God? And you're asking someone to have this conversation, it's very deep, right? Meditation, all these things are very deep within you. So I guess the word is deep. It's really touching a very deep chord within yourself. Like you go to psychology and something really within you, this is potential sleeping, it's dormant, but it's there. And if you wake it up, if you dig that deep within the person, Azahine Oira Mishinasa, wakes up from its sleep. You really touch the person somewhere very deep. Upayelis Pulasa, and then it gets to work. It gets in business. And what does it do? It's extremely powerful. But with the infinite, it's very powerful because it's touching the infinite. So now you're talking, you just woke up the sleeping bear. You woke up the dormant potential that has connected to the infinite. And he's now going to bring a bunch of verses to say what he's talking about. So the Medrash brings that God woke up. You woke up God, right? Not you woke up the beer, lahavdil. You woke up the infinite. You woke up Hashem that's within you. Lamed bin Yisayin, and you'll be able to stand up with a challenge in faith. It's not logical. It's not logic. The person, his logic has already been, taken captive, perhaps, in all kinds of things he studied and he learned and convinced of. Maybe he holds that he's an atheist, but that's not who we're talking to now anymore. You're talking to something deeper than that. B'emunah Hashem, he'll stand up in this challenge, in the faith in Hashem, blishum tamadas, and there won't be any logic to why he's doing what he's doing. Without any understanding, because you're not talking that language anymore. It's much deeper than that, right? Let's gaber al klippas, and he'll have this strength all of a sudden to overcome the klippas, the husks that cover the taivas olam haza, and the lusts and desires and addictions to this world, the heter v'isser, whether they be permitted things or prohibited things, that he became used to. We're talking about the Jew who became a gluttonous person. He totally took the deep dive of indulgence in this world, and he's who knows what, doesn't want to hear from Judaism, never wanted, is done. And he just took the deep dive into going fully away from Judaism, and all of a sudden something will happen to him that he's all of a sudden just like shakes it off, and this battery connects, and he has the power of infinite with him, the limos will hate them. He'll literally turn a 360. I guess you see sometimes a person gets touched so deep that he doesn't go through normal transition period, of like intellect, let me go. It's like the guy just like changes and like, where are you? Who are you? What happened? He says, you know what? You touched me something so deep. This is the example we use. You woke up the beer within me usually. I'm sorry, you just woke something up that was dormant, that was hidden, and I'm not the same person anymore, but that is in a spiritual way. So when do you reach that? When it's idea and faith. And he will choose God. Now, every time as his portion. And he'll even give his life up for Hashem. That's how deep that part is, that you touch something so deep that the person is just, it's irrelevant. I don't care. I could have lived for the last 30 years in sin, ignore Judaism and so on, but you touch a person that deep, it wakes up something that is more powerful than logic, and the person's been experiencing his whole life, and that's it. It'll destroy anything in its path that's unhealthy. And who are we talking about? The person that has never succeeded in overcoming his gluttony, the unholiness. He's been a sinner his whole life and could never control himself. Right? A person, let's say, even that's doing other kinds of things, everyone agrees is bad. He had no self-control. He was acting like an animal his whole life. It controlled him. He never was able to control himself. Like the rabbis say, we're talking about a wicked person. They are like an animal that their heart controls them, their mind doesn't control them. The guy was a very weak person emotionally inside. He could never control himself. Nevertheless, this same guy who had no self-control and was total indulgent, a total glutton, and never talked to his godly soul. When it comes to a challenge in faith, in one God, you touch the chord over there, which when you're talking about faith in one God, it's very deep, high level, means deep within you. When you touch that chord, that deep, when you go that deep and to touch that maximum level of holiness, the third rail in the train subway, when you touch that third rail, everything changes. It's which what we call is wisdom within the soul. That's the level that we call in the person. That's the bridge from faith. That's where the source of a Jew's faith is from. Because in there is Hashem's infinite level of energy, is the bridge touches over there, because it's beyond our comprehension. Therefore, it touches the infinite. So you, for some reason, and it's a subconscious, you don't even usually talk that language because you don't get in touch that deep with yourself. But when you're asked to deny the unity and the oneness of Hashem, you just can't. And when you wake up that level of energy, that battery is so powerful, all the klippus, all the unholiness and the evil becomes nullified, completely subdued and nullified, as if they're not there. God is just so powerful that they don't exist. And he brings up 3 or 4 verses to describe it. All the nations of the world are nothing relative to God. It also says another verse, that God's enemies will just perish and be scattered and just disappear, right? Totally just, it's like nothing. That power is nothing can stand before it. Another example on this idea, big mountains and wax will melt before the fire, right? So that level of heat is so high, everything's just going to melt before it. So it's not like, it's not a regular struggle you're dealing with. When you wake up, touch a person that deep, everything else, all the emotions and everything else just pushed away, and you're in touch with something very deep within yourself. And this level of godliness of Hashem is so powerful, the garish that it can chase out and push away the evil inclination, and the husks that cover Hashem. So, and this is step 2. Again, so step 1 is that God was never affected. Your deepest part of your soul, we want to argue, was never diminished. The battery was just not connected, but it was never brought down. You can't bring that down. It's not possible. No matter who you are and how bad you do, you can never get rid of it. So it's just not connected. So we're saying once you touch that deep within a person, you'll connect. That's what we want to say. That's what we want to argue over here. Now he wants to say, this will explain the deep love that someone has to God, a Jew has to God, that deep down love that a person has to Hashem. I guess, maybe I'm trying to make this more practical, even in our lives and practical. So in a relationship, there's a lot of bad things going on, and then someone could maybe say something to the person that'll just touch them so deep that everything will just melt away. It's like if you say the right word or you get the right perspective, you touch deep enough in the person. It's kind of like a cure that you touch a person so deep, they'll be cured from all the craziness that they were dealing with. It's one word. Sometimes you could go to therapy and work for months and years and try to help yourself. But maybe if the therapist, the psychiatrist could dig deep enough, they could just with one button, fix all the problems that are there. Maybe realize that maybe child and parent are fighting. You could touch deep enough that they realize who their parent, their relationship are, and then there's no issues to begin with. That's kind of like, I think, what we're saying. However, this is all love. Remember, we answered a number of questions, and what we started in a few days ago when we started these two chapters. We said, number one, where does it come from? And we answered it comes from our forefathers, right? Every Jew merited to have this because we are our children, and that's where the Jewish people came to be, because we merited from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then we asked another question, well, what is it? And we explained the power of what it is. Then we explained, well, how is it affected in today's time? Yeah, well, it's not affected at all. It's just the essence of it is never affected. We're explaining in great detail this Pintla Yid idea. And the last question we didn't answer, which we're going to answer now and finish with this, is, well, how does fear come from it, the fear of Hashem? Because again, we said that it has the attribute of love, this deepest part of the person that you're touching. We're so far describing it as a very strong love between the human being and Hashem, the neshama of the Jew and Hashem, that energy is there. But we keep on describing it. We were talking about a love. So he says what happens is awe is included in that love. Why? It's going to explain that when you love someone, you're also scared to hurt them, right? So there's a fear in love. There's a fear. So if you really love someone, there's also an awe and a fear that comes. I don't want to hurt my child because I love them so much, right? Which could be, right. It actually has the element of awe because of that connection and the bond. See, bonding really is, I guess, love is like a bonding feeling, but there's a great awe that comes with that bonding. Is I don't want to hurt that. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize. Right? I really like this person. I want them to like me. So I'm afraid not to do anything that will cause the person not to like me, to hurt that relationship. So awe gets in with, because you love that so much. Like two people are dating. I don't know why this comes to mind. Two people are dating, and one, let's say both, whatever. One of them really loves the other one, and they're afraid to do something that will hurt that connection because out of their love. So that's what he's saying. I'm sorry, the Hainu, the Garish. So when you awaken that love to Hashem, you're going to chase out the evil inclination, all the addictions and the gluttony and the selfishness that you have, that they can't even touch your clothing. Now we know what does it mean clothing? Can't touch your clothing. We know in Tanya, clothing means thought, speech, and action. So you're going to be careful not to do anything against the relationship with God. What is that? Thought, speech, and action. In the belief of Hashem. So it won't just cause you, that deep part of yourself won't just cause you to love Hashem, but it'll also cause you to think in detail about the awe, not to do anything to hurt the relationship with Hashem. To overstand the test. So let's say here the guy saying bow to the idol, right? That's the faith. I will not do it even if it looks bad, because it hurts me so deep. I don't want to be disconnected from Hashem. I have an awe and respect and a fear of Hashem that I don't want to be disconnected from it. So it's also arousing the emotion of fear and awe within me too, not just love. He'll be so crazy about when you touch so deep about Hashem that he won't want to do even one thing against Hashem. It's a motivation not just to hug the thing you like, but also not to do anything against it. Going the shtachvis of a desire, like bowing to an idol. Even though you don't believe in the idol. So the guy will say, a person, a Jew who hasn't done anything in his religion, almost looks like he hasn't done anything, he'll say, bow to the idol. No, I don't want to. Just pretend. No, I don't care. It touches me too deep down. I'm not going to bow to this idol, even though I don't mean it, because I'm so afraid to jeopardize such a deep part of my relationship with Hashem. I can't do it. Not even to speak falsely. Just say this. No, I'm not going to say it. I cannot speak those words about my unity with God to say that I'm not connected to Hashem. Even though you don't mean it in your heart, you just say it. No, I can't say it. It's too deep. It hurts me too much. It's too close to the depth of myself. I can't. My heart's on fire. It's full with Hashem. I need to only speak good things, a bond to God, and not do anything that will sever that bond. So therefore, there's also this awe element within me too. This is called awe that comes from the chilu berchimu. That means that fear contained in love. Again, because you love something so much, you're afraid to hurt that love. This fear and love that we're describing to you is in every single Jew. It's there. It's the DNA, spiritual DNA of every single Yisrael that's in general every Jew. Because its nature is that it wants the dafka b'sharshim b'kar. It wants to connect to its source. So it's a very deep part of yourself, one of the deepest parts perhaps of yourself that you don't usually get in touch to because it's so deep that it has to be connected to the infinite. It just feels and it sees and it needs that connection. Because of this love and this will, this deep will of yourself, it's afraid. It doesn't want to touch the evil of idol worship, which is against belief. It's a belief in one God. Even just to pretend, even just with the closing of thought, speech, and action. Even just pretend, just act. No, I can't. It's just too deep. It hurts me. It touches me too deep. It's not something I could even pretend. And that's why this love will protect you from sinning and it'll also protect you to want to do mitzvahs. And that is the end of chapters, I think 18 and 19, right? 18 and 19, which describe in detail, very great detail and very logical, what we call the Pintel Yid, the soul of a Yid, of a Jew, how it's never affected and it can never be contaminated. It's always there. It may just be hovering, even no matter how bad the Jew wants to get, no matter what he does in his life, it'll always be there. And we learned that when it's touched so deep, what is woken up, you wake up the beer, when you wake up the godly soul, when you're waking up Hashem, we're saying, is that when you get to matters of faith, which are not in logic, that's where it talks its language. And that's where you will wake it up when it comes to that conversation, and it'll wake up. And at that point, nothing could stop him. He'll go crazy. He'll be a changed man, changed woman in a second, because you touch the person in such a deep level. And so it's a really class in psychology, I guess. You could touch a person so deep that if they never spoke that language, but it takes a second and it'll change the person completely. Yeah. Andrea, yes.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. It's all very interesting and very true. I just had a question. So did it say that sometimes if you have a test in life, it awakens the love of Hashem? Was that what I understood, or is that not true?
So I think he's talking specifically here about a test of faith in the unity of God, which means it's that would be the deepest part of yourself when a Jew is asked to deny Hashem's oneness. I think that is the specific context of today's.
So it's not just a test. It's just not. Sometimes people, if they have a test in life, either they get closer to Hashem or they get further.
No, I'm not disagreeing. Then I was going to say I agree 100% that I believe all the tests make us dig deeper. The whole point of meditation, of manufacturing emotions, meditation, is to cause us to dig deeper, right? And dig deeper within ourselves. So like a building, the base of the building needs to be bigger. If you want to build a higher building, the challenges, I believe, do dig deeper within ourselves. Maybe to reach this deep, you need it takes maybe a certain kind of, they're all digging deeper 100%. I really think so. I agree with that idea very much. It's all about digging deeper within ourselves. I guess we'll always think about expanding further out, but we're talking about meditating and changing our insides. Because again, all life is people doing things how they need to do on the outside, but our insides could be rotting, and many people, they are rotting. So we're dealing with the insides of the person. And it's all, I agree 100%. I believe most challenges are given probably to force you to dig deeper, which you wouldn't think you didn't want to maybe dig deep, and you didn't think you did have that depth inside you. I don't know if every challenge reaches this depth that we're discussing today. Right. Maybe you need like a particular challenge, and we're discussing faith and belief in Hashem, but I believe other challenges can get you, I don't know if they'll get you this deep, but I believe it's the same idea. It's all about digging deeper within yourself to be able to deal with whatever's out there that's happening to you.
But some people have challenges and it pushes them away, from Hashem. They said, like, God forbid, like from the Holocaust, people had challenges from the Holocaust and they said, they came out and they said, I don't want to have anything to do with Judaism, so that's, I
Right.
guess, so, I mean, that's an extreme.
Yeah, I just heard, so I wouldn't stand here now and say to that, so they should have dug deeper. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to say, but I don't know. People who had challenges and then they didn't come out on top. I don't know. It's hard for me to judge them. What way they went. What?
No, I said, no, of course nobody can judge. It's just, I wonder, like,
I'll say one thing. A lot of Holocaust survivors, a lot of people that or that talk that what you're saying, they say, where was God? A lot of people want to say in that argument, they're actually showing they believe in Hashem because they're so angry at God.
Okay.
But if there's no God, so who are you angry at? If you just believe in nature, that the word just turns on its own, so it could happen. So big, you know what I mean? So somebody came and nature made somebody come in charge, and then they killed a bunch of killed so many people. But why are you angry about that? It's just nature. A lot of times, some people want to say that anger at Hashem is actually their conversation to God. You kind of. I heard someone speak the other way that went through a very traumatic experience on a podcast that I was listening to, and they basically they shifted their perspective on their relationship with Hashem. They didn't lose it, but they changed their relationship with God. I think most challenges make people deeper. I'm not saying you're not as external anymore when you go through serious challenge. You're a much deeper person. It does that to you. Now that you're saying some people might end up spiritually against Hashem, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'm not sure I'm not sure if every challenge will work in that way. I mean, we're talking about even deeper than that. Maybe in Tanya, maybe what we're talking about now is even deeper than that, is touching that essence. You know what, Rabbi Friedman, who's going to be speaking here, he said an interesting story about Hanukkah. He spoke, the first time he spoke, I believe it was right before Hanukkah, Yom Kislev, and he said that the miracle of Hanukkah was they found one pure jug of olive oil, right? They found a pure jug of olive oil. He explained that whole idea and that lit the menorah. He says a lot of people go through terrible things in life, and I guess that's the point of today's Tanya, is that there always is the godly soul that's deeper. That's the pure jug of olive oil, and if you connect with that, you could light the menorah from that. So some people say there's no. I was hurt so bad that I can't recover. And maybe what Tanya's saying, I'm not saying it's easy, and I don't understand these things really. I don't really understand these things. So I'm not making judgment and describe it. Perhaps the message here is that there's always a deeper part of yourself which you can then recover from because of that deepest part of yourself that wasn't contaminated. There's always going to be a part which is a very powerful message too. That there's always somewhere deeper that you can't contaminate, and that you're going to be a good, healthy, pure person that you could always get it, hopefully, which gives you faith that you could always recover from difficult situations. So that maybe that's the message in today's time. If you could always dig deeper and find somewhere that wasn't contaminated. That's the message of Hanukkah. There was always one oil that wasn't contaminated that you could then relight and relive again from that pure place within yourself.
It kind of goes off of what we were talking about the Chumash, where they saw the blood in the desert, and the whole story of the golden calf. You could sin so badly, but in turn, you're not dead yet. You still have life. You still have a chance until Correct. You have until that breath is gone.
Right. I have to be very sensitive because I'm not saying it's easy or anything like that. But maybe there's hope. Maybe the Tanya is telling you that there's always hope, that there's always a part of you which is yours, which is a code that cannot, no matter what somebody did to you, they can't contaminate that. There's always your innermost connection to Hashem, your identity there, that can't be contaminated. Every other part can, but you have to maybe dig deeper. You always have to dig deeper, and you have it within yourself to recover because you have something within you that you can connect with. Maybe that's the message. I got to run. I promise my wife will be done at 1, but it's 1:02. Have a very good day, everyone. Very powerful lesson. And I look forward to
Shavua
Yes.
Tov. Thank you, Rabbi.
Shavua Tov. Thank you, everyone.
Shalom,
Shul,
shalom.
Ira, Andrea, Gregory, Evan, Eyal, Josh, and Harvey. Have a great day. We'll see you all tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem with Hashem's help. Take care.